Okay, we've already established that while Transformers is my #1 fiction, I'm still a fan of their competition, the GoBots. Let's be honest, Transformers was better marketed and using more than one toy line as source material, the majority of the GoBots toys coming from Machine Robo, allowed them better diversity and things to change into. Transformers also had profiles on the packaging that turned the robots into full characters. They had numerous books and comics that established multiple continuities. And I'll be honest, a better naming system, all of which gained them a lot more exposure. Today they're a part of the culture even without the Bay films. And I have plans for those. Oh yes I do. However, the GoBots had a lot more going for them as toys than you think. Since all but the Super GoBots are about the size of Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars, they were easier to bring places and sadly lose along with your mini-car Autobots, and could even interact with the Hot Wheels and Matchbox playsets. In fact, they had 2 playsets of their own. I meant good ones. Command Center and Thruster turned into bases and spaceships, and unlike the Transformers cities, everyone can hang out there. While toy collectors will continue to debate like video gamers over their favorite consoles, I think both lines are fun to play with, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. They just have different features that make them enjoyable to different audiences. Except for Nintendo, it rules. However, the biggest strike against GoBots comes not from the toys, but from the Hanna-Barbera animated series Challenge of the GoBots. It's often considered an inferior series to the Transformers. Again, I think it's a question of taste. While Transformers lives in a more expansive universe and allows for more diversity in stories, the action sequences on Challenge of the GoBots was just as good. There's actually more given about Gobotronian culture than we ever learned about Cybertronian culture pre-war, at any point in the franchise. And really, all things being equal, Psykill may be a better evil leader than Megatron. Oh, you heard me right. Psykill is a better evil leader than Megatron. Now, I know what any Transformer fan out there right now is thinking.
What? Well, are you kidding me, Tronics? Okay, man. Look at the stats. I mean, Megatron had a huge fusion cannon, a vast array of troops, including guys who could combine into larger robots. He conquered Cybertron by 2005, had all sorts of weapons of doom. Okay, most of them backfired, but that's Starscream's fault. We all know it. Oh, and hey, you remember that time he used mind control slaves as part of a plan to drag Cybertron into Earth's orbit and drain the energy in the fall? Wait. Why does that sound familiar? Never mind. Why am I talking to an internet video?
Megatron had the better toys, but Psykill pulled a similar game plan to what we saw in the episode The Ultimate Doom. However, while Megatron as usual did so by squandering his own resources and putting his own plan into danger at almost every step, I mean, when Starscream is the voice of reason, maybe you should rethink your plans. Psykill made it his plan A. He made better use of his resources, and he didn't go down like a punk. But I'll review The Ultimate Doom another day as part of another project I have in mind. But for our purposes, let's see how Psykill conquers a planet. Which, thanks to Warner Archives' manufacture-on-demand service, we can. But first, we need to get the GoBots to Earth. Our tale begins with the narrator telling us how peaceful Gobotron is thanks to the peace-loving Guardians, instead of the GoBot Security Force, if you will recall my last trip to Gobotron, with the exception of the Renegades. Cut to Psykill, Crusher, and Coptor. I did mention the naming problems in this line. Stealing an Astro Beam, a serious plot device I'll get to in a moment. First, there are 2 complaints I do need to address. This one bugged me even as a kid. Every other character gets even a few second appearance is spot on to the actual toy, something the Transformers lacked in spades. However, when it came to the main 6 of the series, they have completely different faces. And it takes extra work to draw these faces compared to the toys, especially Crasher. Believe me, I've drawn my fair share of GoBots in my time. Why go through the trouble? Crasher is the only one with no actual face, And if Optimus Prime can emote with a face guard, so can Leader 1. It shouldn't be that hard. 2. Listen to how the GoBots transform. Now compare that to your average Transformer. Which sounds like actual machine parts shifting, and which sounds like something you'd put on your bicycle to make noises. Why did Sentinel think that this was the better idea? And here comes one of those action scenes I was talking about. Shift to Guardian HQ as Leader 1 suggests that it's time to charge the Renegade base and put an end to their shenanigans. Meanwhile, at the Renegade base, Psykill introduces everyone to the series plot device.
The Astral Beam is a matter transporter. Its effects are temporary, but last long enough to suit my purposes.
Actually, this was a good way to bring in a character when the story needed it, and send them away when the story no longer required them, or could goof up one side's plans. Meanwhile, the Autobots never thought to build their own space bridge, and Megatron used up more energy powering the thing than he sent to Cybertron. Psykill and the other two series regulars are going to Earth to form a base to conquer Gobatron, and have even secured the aid of a human. This is when the Guardians attack. Psykill leaves Phytor in charge of defending the base. Phytor wants to use Zod. We did that joke last time. But Psykill doesn't want to risk him since he has other plans, and why show off the big monster toy this early in the show? Psykill escapes in Thruster, a place that you won't get for quite some time, and heads for Earth. In orbit around Earth are three NASA space repair folk, Matt, Nick, and AJ, who, as apparently usual, are arguing with one of the scientists, Dr. Braxis. He accuses the trio of goofing off and demands they get back to satellite repair, with General Newcastle trying to keep peace between the two. Leader 1, Turbo, and Scooter also head for Earth, where the satellite repair is already done. Well, that was a waste of time. Thanks to the Renegade stealth device, which would act like a cloaking device from the series, but here just keeps it from being detected, nobody believes the repair crew about the UFO, so Matt decides to give chase. Psykill, not wanting witnesses, lures the humans into a trap to kill them off. Luckily, Crusher and Copter are playing with them, allows the Guardians time to arrive and save the day, although Turbo is damaged in the rescue attempt. When the authorities arrive, both GoBot factions make a run for it, and of course nobody believes the astronaut story, so they're grounded. They rest at Matt's house until Leader 1 drops by, what was he in the phone book, and kidnaps the humans to get their help. Leader 1's diplomacy skills need work. At the command center, Leader 1 tells them the full story and asks for help in repairing Turbo. Gee, maybe you guys should have brought a medic, like Rescue. Oh, right, he was injured guarding the Astral Beam. Because the doctor's the right guy to put on guard duty.
But we must help them! Earth is an alien world to the GoBots!
Okay, I admit it, I'm not sure what was worse, the line or the delivery. Anyway, Scooter and Nick head to NASA to get a part Turbo needs, and learns that Psykill and his bunch are there to meet their ally, Dr. Braxis. Gee, you think you know a guy. After dropping in on the meeting, Scooter and Nick barely escape thanks to Scooter's holograms. With the component part, and the obligatory "will he die?" medical drama commercial cliffhanger, Turbo is up and running just in time. Matt tries to warn Hardcastle that Braxis is working with giant alien robots to take over the world.
I get the distinct impression you don't believe me, General.
I don't know why, it seems like a perfectly believable story to me. Anyway, the Renegade's next step is to obtain an artificial mineral power source called Sorium, the story's MacGuffin, and orders Phytor to send Zod to Earth. Since the Astral Beam reverses after a time, they have to do it the old-fashioned way, by rocket. The Guardians use the internet, learn all about the Sorium, and head for the Arctic. Meanwhile, a meteor hits near the base, and the Russian doctor who created the mineral, Anya Turkanova, orders the guards to go and check it out. I'd fix that line, but you know how many times it took me just to say her name. Well, with them gone, the Renegades attack and steal the mineral just as Zod awakens to say hello to the guards. The Guardians arrive, and Anya takes the opportunity to escape, for about a minute. Crusher is buried in an avalanche, and Zod makes his appearance, with the command center falling into thin ice, which, considering it's bigger than an AT-AT, would be any frozen body of water, leaving Turbo and Leader 1 cornered by Psykill's mechanical monster and a piece of Sorium.
But what about Crasher? There's no time to rescue her. She lost us to us. Farewell, Crasher.
Now see, that's more compassion for his troops than you'll ever get out of Megatron. Lucky for our heroes, Leader One's force field is enough to protect them from the Saurium's explosion, and the Command Center rescues everyone, taking Crasher prisoner. Although Matt may regret saving the good doctor.
Of course I'm not all right. I could have been killed.
You're barking up the wrong tree, comrade.
An American. So, this is an imperialist plot against the People's Republic.
Meanwhile, Braxis installs the Saurium power source into a device called a pulsar generator, and now must get them into the NORAD base in Cheyenne Mountain. To help, Psyche summons Jeeper Creeper, who turns into an army jeep.
What possible help will this ghoul be?
Well, I'm sure they'll be the best of friends. On the command center, the Guardians decide to use a mind probe device to explore Crasher's memories and learn where Psycho's headed next. They go a bit too far back.
I had a crush on you back then, Leader One.
You sly dog. I didn't know you had it in you.
Don't put him on the back too hard, Matt. It's like being told that Grace Jones is hot for you. The mind probe does eventually uncover where the renegades are heading, but Braxis and Jeeper have already taken over and are setting up the device. The Guardians arrive, and Matt and Anya go to warn the base about Psycho's visit. They're a bit late. So what does the pulsar generator do anyway?
The pulsar generator emits an electromagnetic signal on the exact frequency of human thought. All humans will be turned into my obedient slaves.
Impossible.
The science of Gobatron will appear as magic to you Earthlings.
Braxis activates the generator, and sure enough, everyone in and near the base, including the Guardians' human allies, are under Psycho's control. Nick releases Crasher, who takes over the command center, and the military attacks the Guardians. Braxis uses the NORAD satellites to broadcast Psycho's mind control beam around the world.
I am Psyche, your new ruler. Fight with me to conquer the Guardians of Gobatron.
Conquer the Guardians.
And there's a brief example of how Fran Drescher might sound under mind control. Leader 1 is captured by the Renegades, while Scooter and Turbo make their escape. Now I think it's a good time to stop and assess the situation. Now, in the Transformer episode, The Ultimate Doom, Megatron finds this human scientist who created a chip that, when you plant it behind his ear, allows you to take control of his mind. Megatron uses this to have his human slaves to collect the energy from the planet falling apart as Cybertron is in Earth's orbit. Like I said, it's poor resource management. But here, Psycho created his own machine, and it's taken over the mind of every human being on the planet. He only needed the mad scientist to help him set it up, and even then only because of his security clearance and knowledge of Earth. Now he has his biggest enemy. The only two beings who can save the world have been on the run for weeks. Their time, and our time was the next episode of a weekday miniseries. And is proceeding with a plan that is much better use of resources, as you'll see in a moment. Have I made my point yet? Because even though the Astro Beam reversed and Jeeper Creeper is back on Gobatron, the other three and Zod are still here. And things are only about to get worse for our heroes. With Scooter and Turbo in hiding after escaping yet another human attack, Crasher and Copter try to use Nick and AJ to force the Guardians to surrender. Then Psycho arrives to send his minions to investigate a potential ship landing. Oh, wait, it's Scooter using his holograms. Have you just been given a better voice? He'd be awesome instead of just really cool. Well, this gets the baddies in trouble with the real Psycho, who has ordered his human slaves to build
Zods. And more Zods and entire armada!
and uses his own mind probe, which is a bit more painful than the Guardians, to learn the best places to send his Zods. He also summons Tank to take out the remaining Guardians hiding in an abandoned city. Finding a tech lab, Scooter comes up with jamming devices like the one Braxis uses to restore AJ and Nick's mind. Then Tank arrives with the humans and other renegades, and Zod for good measure, to go after the Guardians. Instead, they rescue Matt and escape again, only believed dead. Back on Gobatron, the Guardians are making headway, and it only took them a few weeks. On Earth, Psycho succeeds in getting the locations of various Guardian bases on Gobatron for the Zod Armada, which our heroes come across, rescuing Anya in the process. Scooter and the kids are able to sneak aboard the command center as Psycho drops Leader 1 into a scrapyard that the original Zod is using to graze. What's that? Why not just blast him? Well, bypassing the Dr. Evil joke you may be expecting, we do learn in a later story that Psycho and Leader 1 used to be friends until Psycho became jealous of Leader 1 because he was getting all the attention, all the glory, while his victories were being ignored. Maybe there's a little bit of that friendship left. Leader 1 is able to take out Zod with some help from Turbo, Matt, and Anya. Well, I'm not telling you everything. I'm trying to get you to buy the DVD. These are just the highlight spoilers of a 20-plus-year-old cartoon. No. He's still damaged, so our heroes use Zod as a power transfusion, and Leader 1 is back online after yet another will he die medical moment. But Optimus Prime wishes he had a GoBot taking care of him instead of Perceptor. Psycho arrives at Cheyenne Mountain, not knowing Scooter and the kids are aboard.
It would be just like those Guardians to storm this mountain during my final hour of triumph!
Well, yeah, it's a kid's show. Using his Psycho disguise yet again, Scooter is able to get the Guardians inside, but the Zods are already launching. In the resulting battle, Crusher and Copter are taken down, while Leader 1 fries Psycho. Defeated on Earth and his Gobatronian forces captured, Psycho still has his Zods and decides to cut his losses. He opens the Sorium so it'll explode, and uses the Astro Beam to escape in thruster. Well, maybe the reversal doesn't happen over short distances. That is going to be reversed after the planet goes boom. Again, he shows remorse over Copter and Crasher's fate. So the Earth is doomed, and Psycho has his Zod army. It looks like evil is won. Until Leader 1 uses the Astro Beam to teleport the generator into the mist of the Zod Armada, blowing them to atoms and sending Psycho spinning into space, never to be seen again until the full series is launched. Rather than do the paperwork, Matt, Anya, and the kids join the Guardians to try and find Psycho as the pilot miniseries ends. So, I think I made my point. Well, evil is never allowed to win in these stories. Psycho came awfully close, and with better use of his resources than Megatron. He doesn't seem to care more about his troops. Well, the Autobots aren't really soldiers like the Decepticons. The Guardians are a military unit. Psycho is even one of them. So he doesn't have the same edge and advantage that Megatron had. So all things being equal, Psycho comes off as just a little bit ahead on points as far as I'm concerned. But why not find out for yourself? The original miniseries is available from WBshop.com or Amazon, and no, I'm not being paid to solicit this. They've also announced a full series might be on the works. No word about the Rock Lords movie, but I've seen it, and it's not exactly Transformers the movie. As for the DVD, the lack of bonus features is a bit sad, but the shows have been digitally remastered. And do yourself a favor, don't compare it to the Transformers. Hanna-Barbera went for more event-oriented stories than the series character-driven stories of the Transformers. And while that's too bad, there's still a good story to be told here. And as I said, we learn more about Gobatron than we ever do about Cybertron. As for who's better, who cares? Look, if they actually met, I figure Psycho and Megatron will be biding their time before stabbing each other in the back. I can even see Starscream switching the Renegades and possibly being better off for it. But as for the Autobots and Guardians, personally, I think they'd get along just fine. Okay, so fine. I'm not so good at drawing robots. Maybe I should try getting my humans improved first. Something will give me less of a hard time. Hard time. That gives me an idea.